So, I haven't talked a lot about this current hot streak that Boston's been on, but I'm going to. You know why? Because this is a very underrated blue line. The number one team in the league defensively is Boston. And when you look at this group overall, you go, well, on the surface, it's not a great group until you really look at it. And the scary thing is, yes, there might be a piece or two moving out, but it looks good moving forward. Chara's been a beast this year, and it doesn't show in his point totals. I think he's got 14 or 18 points. He's not. But the thing with Chara is he doesn't look slower. Last year he looked like he'd slowed down. He had a half decent second half to the season that sort of saved it somewhat, but he did look slower, and I was like, yeah, he's probably done. Even though he's about to turn 41, I don't know that Chara's done. And now he's with Charlie McAvoy, and this is just a rough depth chart for their blue line. McAvoy, of course, has been a revelation, and if not for injury, and if not for the fact that Boston's blue line doesn't score a lot of points, I think McAvoy would be higher up in the Calder conversation. I think he's going to be in there. I really do, because anybody that plays against the Bruins, that's usually what you hear, is that Charlie McAvoy's a heck of a defenseman. Remember, he's playing top 2 minutes. He's playing top 2 minutes as a rookie. And you don't see that hardly at all. Torrey Krug and Brandon Carlo. This is one that's kind of odd, only because Carlo and Chara were together a lot of last season, and I liked Carlo and Chara together. And I like Brandon Carlo a lot. His offensive upside, he may never get to it, but defensively, he's solid. Krug is all offense. So having Carlo out there with him makes sense to me because Krug is all offense. He's suspect 5-on-5, and he gambles and pinches a lot, but Torrey Krug has a very good shot. He's got good puck sense, and he's an underrated defenseman in the NHL. He is one of the top point producers per game. Other than injury this year, he'd be higher on the list. And then the bottom three is really underrated. So you got McQuaid, who's in and out of the lineup with Miller. They've both been solid as that sixth guy. Matt Grzelcyk has been, to me, a huge surprise. When I saw Grzelcyk being possibly in the lineup early on in the season, I was like, oh man, our defense sucks. And early results for Boston were poor. First 10 games of the year, they looked like they were going to miss the playoffs. They looked poor. And I didn't have any hope, really, that this kind of a season was going to happen. And they signed Paul Postma. I remember in the offseason, the Bruins getting ripped because the only guy that they picked up as a free agent was Paul Postma. And I'm trying to remember which yearbook it was that said Boston's kind of done because the only upgrade they got on the blue line was Postma. Yeah, that'll help. It reminded me of Mick Foley winning the championship. That'll put butts in the seats. It's not relevant. Postma's not in the top 6. So turns out that whole Paul Postma signing probably overblown. And at the time I stated that too. And I might as well put Jakub Boril on here because Boril is going to be up sooner or later. His point totals will never be big, but he's got a good plus minus in the minors, and I understand people don't like plus minus, but when your plus minus is out of line with everybody else in your area, odds are you're pretty good defensively or pretty bad defensively, depending whether it's a high number or a low number, and we can debate that till the end of the earth, and we will. This is an underrated group, and when I talk about who's going to win the Norris Trophy, the only reason really why I don't look and say this could be another season for Chara, and don't rule Zdeno out. He's 40 years old. He's not putting up the points that he did, but he's still Zdeno Chara, and he's still playing very, very well. And when Boston's number one, so let's say we go to the end of the year, and the Boston Bruins win the Jennings Trophy. So Rask and Hudobin get to go up and accept a trophy for having the best goals against average in the league. That's something you look at. That's something you look at and say, wow, what's going on with Boston? So while I don't, come out and say, oh, well, Chara should get consideration for the Norris, I do think he's going to be in the conversation, only because Boston's playing so well defensively, and Chara's still playing a ton of minutes. he's not looking like a 40-year-old. I think Chara's probably got 2 more years left. And they'll probably be in Boston. And Boston will retire his number someday, and we'll all recall the days of Chara and how solid he was on that blue line. And at this point a year ago, I think I was like, Chara's not going to get in the Hall of Fame. And I will go ahead and reverse that now. I do believe Zdeno Chara hits the Hall of Fame. I think I was wrong. And maybe I'm harder on him because he plays for one of my favorite teams. But don't sleep on McAvoy either. We're all talking about Besser, Barzal. Charlie Mack's playing fantastic. He's playing really, really well. And Krug's playing well offensively, and Carlo's there to pick up the slack defensively. Maybe that's why you pair him up with Chara last year, and this year pair him up with somebody else. I still like that pairing, though. Chara and Carlo. And I think the nice thing is that then when somebody goes out with injury, you have depth guys who can step in. Postma can step in for a few games as a number 6 guy. It's not the end of the world. The scary thing is, McAvoy's 20, Carlo's 21, Grzelcyk's 24, Sporeel's down here in the minors at 21. That's 4 defensemen right there. This defense core, when Chara moves out and when McQuaid moves out, McQuaid's not easy to replace, but you're looking for a physical blue liner. So say an Eric Goodbranson could fit in there as an example, and then you're looking for a top blue liner, but that's down the road a little bit, and I honestly think there's enough depth here to make up for it. It's an underrated blue line. I am not saying it's better than Nashville's. I'm not saying it's better than Tampa's. I'm not saying but I'm saying when you look at where the Bruins are, the run they've been on, this blue line has played a major part in that. And the other part too with the and I got to throw this in here while I'm at it. Bergeron's not on the blue line, but he plays defense. So you've got these guys, and then you got Patrice Bergeron. Drop my marker. How does that happen? But you have Patrice Bergeron coming back and playing defense all the time. So you've got to deal with these guys and Bergeron ready to pull it off your stick at any point in time. It's pretty lethal. It's a lot of fun to watch. And it makes the Bruins very tough to defeat. You have to have a pretty solid offense to get through these guys. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. As always, hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And hey, I wanted to throw this up here, and I can definitely do this with other teams too, and I may very well do that. I just wanted to do this with Boston because it feels like even though they've had this really long, good run, there's still, people aren't really taking them all that seriously. And even though I did my playoffs and I said Toronto would likely beat them in the playoffs, I only say that because I think Toronto is due for a win in the playoffs, not because I don't think Boston's good. Boston's very good. And because they play in the Atlantic, I think they don't get quite that same amount of respect. The weird thing is, they're only a handful of points behind Tampa, and I don't hear anybody saying, well, yeah, but Tampa sucks because they're in the Atlantic. We just hear about how great everybody is in Tampa, and then as soon as you mention Boston, you get, well, yeah, but they got a weak schedule. Really? Because Tampa's got that schedule too, unless they play all the Metro teams more often, which they don't, so it's weird to me. But let me know what you guys think. Hit like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.